Hi, good morning, sir. This is the last time we'll talk to you before you're a senator and lose our number, I'm sure.
You're always going to be my constituent, so it's wonderful to talk with you now. It'll be wonderful to talk with you as senator.
Yeah. Well, we are so thrilled and excited. We're coming to your kickoff this weekend. As you know, we love Katie Porter too, but a couple of things. She could, that seat is not as Democratic, so we could lose that seat, which we would hate to do. And also, as you probably know, I will be forced to step in and take your seat. So there is something in it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You would be an outstanding choice.
Oh, yes. Boy. Well, this has been the opportunity I've been waiting for, as you know, because people have said I should run, and I'm like, well, Adam Schiff's my congressman, so this is my opening, so it's really all about me, Chairman.
Excellent. I'm glad that I could be on the program when you announced your campaign.
Yeah, great.
I think it's important that I say, I'm just kidding. Okay. Where do we even begin? First of all, State of the Union. You said President Biden just shared his vision for America. It's positive, it's bold, it's hopeful, providing real solutions for working families and children. He's fighting for an economy that works for everyone, and I'm proud to join him in that fight. I mean, he's got all the facts and figures on his side, and he just was masterful in turning this mosh pit, this WWE that the Congress has become, against them. These, drunken hecklers, I guess you could call them.
I think you're absolutely right. What he laid out in terms of what he's accomplished in the first 2 years, working with the Democratic Congress, what he wants to get done in the future, he was spot on in terms of what Americans really care about, and working hard to make sure the economy works for everyone. And so I thought, message-wise, he was perfect. I thought he was very powerful in his delivery, and I think he responded, with great nimbleness to the rudeness of the GOP.
Yeah.
I have to say, I was again maybe not surprised, but shocked at just how rude and vulgar they are. But that's who they are. People shouldn't be surprised that a George Santos gets elected to Congress when their party leader lied thousands and thousands of times as president of the United States.
Yeah.
And they have a deep antipathy to the truth.
Yeah.
But that's who the Ken McCarthy, Donald Trump Republican Party is right now.
Yeah.
And I think the president handled it masterfully.
Yeah. I don't know if that's part of your calculation of getting out of that clown show, but I mean, it is. As you know, my dad was a congressman, and I just shake my head. I cannot believe the sort of monster truck rally that they have turned, they've disgraced the floor of the House of Representatives with. This, constant heckling and just trolling and stunts, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, so many of them are just the most vile kind of performance artists. They don't care about governing. They don't really care about their district or the constituents. It's all what will get me notoriety. And if it's bad notoriety, they just don't care.
Yeah.
Years ago, you recall when I think it was Joe Wilson called President Obama a liar. What a shock it was. He apologized. But I think people saw that he ended up raising a lot of money from hurling that insult during the State of the Union. And it spawned a lot of imitators to the point now where you get all these crass comments and people jeering. And it just makes me cringe to see what they're doing to our democracy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you actually tweeted, you said our democracy is at great risk because GOP leaders care more about power than anything else. And you said because our economy isn't working for millions of hardworking Americans, we're in the fight of our lives, which is part of why. Tell us how you came to your decision to run for Senate.
Well, I think these economic issues and our democracy are really part of the same whole, part of the same challenge. During the pandemic, as you recall, we more than doubled the child tax credit. That lifted 40% of the kids in the country out of poverty. That should tell us something, that we've made a policy choice about how many people are going to live in poverty in the United States. It's a terrible policy choice. What we did in raising that child tax credit had a huge impact, but the Republicans wouldn't support extending it.
Yeah.
And in so many ways, their economic policy, their unwillingness to make the economy more fair and give opportunity to more Americans has left a lot of people looking at their quality of life and worrying that it's going to be less than their parents and their kids' future may be less than theirs. and it's left people vulnerable to a demagogue who comes along and promises that he alone can fix it. And these are the issues that I've devoted myself to in the House, that I want to devote myself to in the Senate. I want to be, the voice for people who are trying to make a go of it and earn a good living, provide for their family. That's the core of my candidacy. And if I can just give a shout out, anyone interested in learning more can go to adamschiff.com.
That's by complete accident. It's right behind your head, right there.
Yes.
In this shot.
Wait a minute, where?
Oh my, yes.
God, you're right.
Wow,
Did I do that?
You're normally so observant.
That's just really good staff work.
Speaker Pelosi endorsed you, which is, as our president would say, a BFD. That is really a big deal. I loved your thing about Kevin McCarthy removing you from your committee, but now he can call you his senator. So that's I have to say that was a good chess move on your part.
Well, I do want to say for all Californians, but particularly for those with the misfortune of having Kevin McCarthy as their representative in Congress, if they don't get representation in their district, they will have it in the U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
But he did give Californians a powerful new reason to support me, and that is to make me Kevin McCarthy's home state senator.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, Representative, do you feel exonerated by all of these stories? What we've learned about Durham and Bill Barr, this Charles McGonigal story. I've just been dying to get your reaction to all of this. I mean, you and Malcolm Nance, who we're having in studio tomorrow. So many people have been proven right about every aspect of this Trump-Russia thing. Just give us your reaction to all that.
Well, I want to remind people of what a terrible Attorney General Bill Barr was, because, of course, he's been trying to remake himself as this defender of democracy. And while he did get to a line that he wouldn't cross, he crossed a heck of a lot of lines before he got there. Not since Nixon have we seen an Attorney General like Barr intervene in specific criminal cases like that of Roger Stone or Mike Flynn, to make the cases go away or reduce the sentence of people who lied to cover up from themselves and the president. We haven't seen an Attorney General since Watergate weaponize the department. That whole Durham investigation was initiated by Barr because that's what Donald Trump wanted. And now, years later, it has been a total dud. It's discovered no deep state conspiracy, none of that nonsense. And we also see illegitimate efforts by that particular counsel to try to, for example, discredit the Inspector General investigation that found the investigation into Trump was properly predicated. So, all those abuses now once again revealed for what they are, the terrible leadership of Bill Barr and the terrible politicization of the Justice Department under Donald Trump.
Yeah. And you, Representative, you just brought up Nixon. I mean, there were consequences for Nixon's Attorney General. Are there going to be any consequences for Barr? I mean, I'm glad that they are going to investigate Durham, correct? The Senate committee?
I would hope they would. In terms of consequences for Barr, I will be surprised if there's more than exposure and accountability in that form. I don't expect that there's going to be justice from the Justice Department. But, to give you one very concrete illustration, Bill Barr testified in Congress around the time he had released his false summary of the Mueller report, and he was asked by Representative Charlie Crist about public reports that the Mueller team was really very upset and how he had mischaracterized their work before the report itself was made public. And Barr testified that he was completely unaware of this, didn't know anything about this. That was completely false. We would later learn that Mueller talked with him, that the Mueller team wrote to him, that he was well aware that he was misrepresenting their work. And I think for others, that would have resulted in a potential false statement investigation. But that certainly hasn't materialized for Bill Barr.
Well, then the one thing we know Barr prevented was them looking into the financial wrongdoing, right, in the Mueller report. What do you make of this? The Italians reporting financial crimes, and Durham supposedly, allegedly, looking like he made that go away. Is that gone forever, or if the evidence is there, is there still a way to pursue it?
It's a very good question. The paramount concern I always had with Trump and Russia was his financial interests in Russia. Sometimes the compromise is out in the open.
Yeah.
Trump wanted to build Moscow Trump Tower, which would have been the tallest building not only in Moscow, not only in Russia, but in all of Europe.
Yeah.
It would have been the most lucrative deal of his life. And he needed the Kremlin's approval to do it. And during the campaign, while he was lying to the American people about having no business ties with Russia, his own lawyer was on the phone with the Kremlin trying to get their help to make this thing happen. President Trump basically told Mueller that he was drawing a red line that Mueller couldn't cross, and couldn't look at his finances to determine whether there was compromise there. And I think, sadly, the Mueller team did observe that line. I was making the point at the time, it's not Donald Trump's decision about where the line is drawn in terms of the national security of the United States. If there's compromise, it needs to be revealed. Whether it ever will be, I don't know. We still are litigating, we're litigating in the prior Congress to get the Deutsche Bank records.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we ought to let you go because you're very, I mean, you were important and now you're,
more important.
Okay. So the McGonigal story, just quickly, I mean, in terms of just justice in general, I mean, all of these cases, do you think he could flip? Do you think, all the shoes have dropped in Trump, Russia? And, just in general, do you feel like we're going to see justice in any of these cases?
Well, in the broadest sense, are we going to see justice when it comes to Donald Trump? That will obviously depend on the Justice Department. It may depend also on the Fulton County District Attorney, who I have great respect for. I think the Justice Department has moved very slowly in its overall investigation of January 6th. Apart from going after the foot soldiers who broke into the Capitol that day, who assaulted police officers, those who are higher up, those who are organizing the insurrection or financing it, those who were involved in other multiple lines of effort, fake elector plots, phone calls with the Georgia Secretary of State like Donald Trump had, demanding votes, thousands of votes that didn't exist. They've been very slow to move on that. I suspect that justice may not be served until Donald Trump is a has-been. May that time come soon. It's not the way it should be. It should be equally applied to anyone, former president or not former president. But they have moved so slowly, I'm deeply concerned about it.
Yeah. Senator Adam Schiff sounds good. And if you believe in that, too, adamschiff.com, right behind his head, right there.
Oh, my gosh, you are so good.
Hey all, Glenn Kirschner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirschner wherever you generally get your podcasts.